Good day to you, Guyana, and welcome to Facing the Nation. I am Malika Ramsey. Thank you very much for joining us for what promises to be another very informative week. Of course, last week I promised you that for the next few weeks on this program, what I'll be doing is inviting the recently sworn in, the newly appointed ministers of government, and of course, ministers within the various ministries. Last week, I would have started with Miss Nicolette Henry. Of course, she is the minister within the Ministry of Education, and once again, we'd like to thank her for accepting our invitation to be on Facing the Nation. This week, of course, I plan to continue that trend, and with me on the program today is another female, and we're extremely proud of this young lady, because she is one of the only members, the only youth members, and one of the very few female members in the new APNU+AFC Coalition Government Cabinet. Miss Anette Ferguson, of course, she's no stranger to any of you, and Miss Anette Ferguson is the minister within the Ministry of Public Infrastructure. Welcome, Annette.
Thank you very much, Malika, for having me on your program this afternoon. And to you wonderful viewers there in TV Land, a blessed afternoon to you.
All right, great. It really and truly is wonderful to have you. Before I talk some more with Annette, also expected on today's program, I'll be chatting with the Minister of Communities. Of course, you know that's the ministry with the new name, and people are concerned about that. So I have the Minister of Communities, Mr. Ronald Bulkan, here. He's already here in the studio to talk with you. And I'm also expecting the Minister of Governance, Mr. Raphael Trotman. So definitely a packed and a full program for you. Annette, first of all, the first question I'm going to ask you, you know my concern is about youth and youth representatives, and one of the things that we really campaigned on during the election, of course, leading up to this big and well-deserved victory, one of the things we campaigned on and we championed is that we would like to see youth involved at every level of government. Do you believe that you're now in a position to properly represent our youth at your level of governance?
Malika's simple answer to that is yes. Any further explanation? Well, Malika, you know that indeed young people, and I have young people at my heart. And for too long, our young people, they have been neglected to some extent under the previous administration. And what my administration promised young people is that when we say government, we would ensure that jobs are created, institutions are established so that they can be trained to become empowered, to become, somebody in society. So at my level, what I would like to see is that the opportunity in my ministry would exist for young people to, be employed, be it in infrastructure development, because, roads, bridges, city fences, all these things come under my area. So in my ministry, I would like to see a number of young people employed so that they can at least have their skills or be it their expertise exhibit in some way or the other.
All right, great. And it's interesting you talked about your goal in your main aim being able to have young people employed in your ministry. Is that at the top of your priority list? Because I know a big job needs to be done in Guyana right now when it comes to restructuring public infrastructure and maintaining and rebuilding. What really is on the top priority for you at this point in time?
Well, what is on my list as priority is that first of all, I just want to ensure that I'm well settled in the ministry. That is familiarizing myself with the different positions, the different agencies that come on the Ministry of Public Infrastructure. And what is next on my agenda is to ensure that every young Guyanese, once you're well qualified, once you have the experience to become a part of the ministry, I would like to see young people being employed within the ministry so that at least they can give back to their communities and to the nation at large. So second on my agenda is that We know that we have a lot of deplorable roads, deplorable bridges, deplorable city fences, and I can go on and on. So in order for us to have these areas fixed, I would like to see our people, once you're qualified, you get the job, and you be employed.
How soon can the young people expect this commitment becoming a reality from Anette Ferguson and her ministry?
Well, I can assure my young Guyanese brothers and sisters out there that when the budget is presented to the nation, I think that might be the next 2 months thereabout, or 2.5 months thereabout. Once the budget is presented, young people can now be, employed, because indeed they would have, or they will be, a number of projects, or those continuous projects would come on stream. So I would ensure that, my young Guyanese brothers and sisters get employed through the Ministry of Public Works.
All right. I know you have a very busy schedule, but I'm not ready to let you go just yet.
That's okay.
Before your, I would say, ascension to your new office, you were in charge of a specific constituency. Would that be the same, or would have constituencies been reassigned, especially in your case? Because I know the people of various communities would have gotten to a level of comfort with you. Is anything in that area still the same?
As far as I am aware, there's no changes.
Okay.
And I don't foresee any changes within my constituency, because my constituency is East and West Ramsey, including Ling Avenue. So I want to maintain my relationship with the people within my constituency, because mind you, Malika, in that particular area, or those particular areas, it is very vulnerable. Young people are not employed. We have even single women who are not employed. So with me now being a minister, at least I can offer some amount of empowerment, something, so that my constituency would be improved.
All right. Apart from offering empowerment and jobs, why should Guyana specifically, and I'm not being biased here, let me just let the public know, but specifically Georgetown, why should we trust Anette Ferguson with public infrastructure? I know you're just one minister in that ministry, but why should we trust you with it?
Because, Malika, I'm always a woman to my words. So whatever I say, I get done. So that's basically it. The public can trust me on that.
All right. Any specific plans for the area of transportation?
Oh, yes, indeed. I would like to see our transportation services reformed, specifically those that are being offered by private people. And when I talk about transformed, I'm thinking about our elderly. Something must be done for our elderly, because I personally recognize the pittance that they receive as old age pension. It can't sustain them, and then they're forced to pay high sums in transportation fares. So I would want to see an APNU+AFC administration doing something to bring relief to the elderly, and not forgetting those who are disabled, the handicapped. Yes, I would like to see an APNU+AFC government do something for these vulnerable groups. And I can assure you that Anette Ferguson will be pushing for the whole transformation in our transportation services here in Guyana.
Thank you very much, Anette Ferguson. It was a pleasure to have you. I'm now going to let you go. We want to wish you all the best, and of course, we know that you will continue to make the youth of our nation proud. Once again, of course, viewers, I've been chatting with Minister within the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Ms. Anette Ferguson. What we'll do is take a quick break and come back, and I'll be chatting with the Minister of Governance, Mr. Raphael Trotman. Stay with us.
one thing I want to ask you. This is a ministry of service to the people. And I take that as a blessing that we are in the capacity to serve people. And I want you to see yourself as part of that blessing too, that God has given you that opportunity to serve. Because when Jesus came, he served, right? I just like to talk a lot about God because he is my role model. Jesus is my role model. I'm not perfect, but I'm struggling to be like him. I think if I can emulate him, then I would be doing a good service not only to myself but to the country at large. And so I'm going to ask you to always do your best. In my home, my kids and my family, they call it the museum. Not because I have expensive things and so on, but because I like things in order. I don't like old things around. I don't like broken things around. I don't like that. If I don't have it, I don't have it. You can't use it halfway. If it's broken, it has to go. Right? So the place can be light and fresh and nice. And I will always say to my friends, my home is my palace. Right? For the kids, I don't care what you do in your room. But outside of that, we want to ensure that everything is in order. All right? And so I'm going to ask you to treat this building like your home. Don't wait for somebody to tell you to do something, and don't lean on the part is not my job and so on. I come from a place, I'm the business manager, I'm the second after my boss. But if I come and a paper, I pick it up, I sweep it up, I mop it up, I take the kids to the bathroom, I bathe them if they have an accident. They got other things to do, you know, but all of us have to chip in. This ministry is going to be talked about not only here, but we're going to have people coming from other agencies in the Caribbean to understudy us. That is what we must aim for. Excellency. And you can look back and say, I was a part of that. I was a part of that. All right? Where I work, people ask me, why you work so hard? And I say, because I helped to build it. And I want to ensure that it is kept that way. So I want you to share that joy.
Getting to work on time, it's a plus.
All right. What you would have been viewing there is the Minister of Social Protection, Mrs. Walda Lawrence. Earlier in this week, she visited several locations in Georgetown, including the ministry, what we would have known before as the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security. That's now the Ministry of Social Protection. So the first clip you saw there was with Mrs. Walda Lawrence, the Minister of Social Protection, and she was talking to her new staff members and, of course, basically talking about the do's and the don'ts. And I particularly like in that clip where she talked about the fact that her ministry, her aim is for her ministry to set the tone so that persons from other parts of the Caribbean can come and understudy her ministry, all in the name of promoting and pushing for excellence. Also, immediately after she spoke, we were going to hear from the minister within the Ministry of Social Protection. That's Miss Simona Brooms. Of course, you all are familiar with Simona Brooms. She's a big champion of women's rights and children's rights. So a little later on in the program, I'll try to bring you again the clip from Miss Simona Brooms. As I continue to, in a sense, profile our new government ministers with me, I am really happy and excited to have this particular minister on, the Minister of Governance. That's basically, to many of us, a new portfolio, the Minister of Governance. He's also the former Speaker of the National Assembly, Mr. Raphael Trotman. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Malika. It's good to be here to, as you say, be introduced in a different capacity and to say thank you to the people of Guyana for what they've done.
Great to have you on, sir, and I know the people of Guyana indeed also appreciate you. Sir, my first question, I think I'm going to somewhat put you in the hot seat, but I have to do it because the public wants to know. Now, the fact is, in the past week or so, the administration, the APNU+AFC coalition government would have been criticized thus far. I know you're not in His Excellency Brigadier David Granger, you're not in his head, the president's head, so you can't speak for him at this point. But the main criticism that you're getting, even from some of your own supporters, is that we have too many ministries, too many ministers. It will be a burden on taxpayers and all of that. And since you're the Minister of Governance, can you shed some light on this concern?
Well, thank you. It is, in fact, the hot seat. And I've seen some. I'm not on Facebook, but I'm told that a lot is being discussed there. You know, I've observed Brigadier Granger over many years, most so over the last 3 years sitting in Parliament. And he doesn't say much, but you could see that his mind works. And then it's almost as if he puts pieces of a puzzle in place. And then as the puzzle starts to take shape, then you say, oh, this is what this man is really doing. And so there are some aspects of his mind that, we are still seeing, but I have every bit of confidence and faith and trust in him that he's doing the right thing. And there are times when I have questioned some of his decisions. What is he doing? And then I would have to step back later on and say, oh, I now see why this was done and why this was not done. Traditionally, Malika, and the people of Ghana need to know this, coalition governments are large governments. They are large governments. And I think he's made every attempt to have trim government, but yet at the same time accept the fact that there's only so much trimming that he could do, because you now have APNU that comprised several parties beforehand and the AFC. The AFC was in itself also an alliance of persons coming from the UF, persons coming from aspects of the PPP and from the PNC. So you have many people who needed to be, good people that is, who needed to be placed throughout the length and breadth of Guyana. The other thing is that the PPP civic practice a very insular type of government. That is that only their people alone were able to touch things and to have a say. And therefore, now that we're opening up Guyana, we need actually to put people to work, because the PPP had a large government, but it was also based on a clique or a group. Words have been used like cabal that took care of things, and unless you were a member of that clique, you weren't touching anything. So Mr. Granger is in fact staying true to his word of opening up government by the people, for the people. And of course, people will see some new features like Minister of Communities. You'll see a feature that says Minister of Governance. You'll see features like Minister of Social Cohesion, Citizenship. And we need to trust this man because I am convinced over all the years that I've observed him, even when I've questioned what is he doing, not question in a critical way, but question in an inquiring way, what is he up to? And I've seen his mind when things move from his mind onto paper and from paper into reality, and I've always been quite impressed. So it might appear strange to some, and it's good that we are not starting off using the PPP model of doing business, because that is a failed model. And I think that the people of Guyana will be pleasantly surprised and are in for far better government and governance than has been had before. So what we're asking for now is for trust, and we're asking people to, to keep us on our toes, because we need that. But understand that we are still in the process of taking over a machinery that has been so badly twisted and broken and rusted and corroded and corrupted over 23 years. That is going to take some days and some weeks and perhaps even longer than some of us expected. You have a 100-day plan, but you never expected that Gaisuka would not have a cent, that the money for Gaisuka would be hidden somewhere, that you would be embarrassed when the time came to pay your workers. So you now have to make that priority number one, because the plan is to embarrass the president, and the plan is to make it appear as if you don't care about sugar workers. And so you take away the ability to pay the salaries, and let's see what he'll do now. So it's someone trying to put the proverbial spoke in your wheels. So yes, the government appears large, but the ministries are still 15, just that we've placed junior ministers throughout various ministries, because as all of my ministerial colleagues will readily admit, the task is a huge task, and no one person should feel that he or she alone is so powerful. And I think we had a problem before. Minister says, I am, and do you know who I am? And it led to rot and ruin in Guyana. So we want to make sure that we share the responsibility, that we support each other in a manner in which we administer the affairs of state, and we want to know that we have a president and a prime minister who know what they're doing, and we are there to support them and ensure that we deliver to the people what we said that we would. I know it's a long answer,
No, it's
but
okay.
I speak from from the heart about what I know. Mr. Granger is Brigadier and President Granger, His Excellency. I've got to get myself accustomed to the new titles.
I mean, it has made my job a little more difficult because you've answered, and I know the public really appreciates that because you've touched on a number of issues. But to deal specifically with your ministry now, you did talk about the fact that it really is a grand task ahead in terms of taking over a broken system. But your ministry is basically a new one. Would it be difficult for you to more or less set up that ministry and in a sense start from scratch? And at the same time, I'd like you to talk about some of the things that in terms of responsibilities that your ministry would have to look over.
Well, I'm a little more fortunate than most of my other colleagues because I am going to be functioning outside of the Office of the President umbrella, so to speak, under His Excellency the President, and along with Minister of State Mr. Harmon and Ms. Amna Ali and the Honourable Minister, Mr. Felix. So really and truly our headquarters is Office of the President. The others have to go and set up whole new buildings, whole new structures. So I'm a bit fortunate in that regard. Now I carry the title governance, but Mr. Granger, here again, he has a different concept. And in addition to the constitutional aspects of governance, Article 13, inclusive governance, making sure that the rights commissions function and that the constitutional offices work well, and even giving advice from time to time on matters that might pertain to the rule of law or so forth. He's been impressing on my mind the whole concept of the national patrimony. And what that means, it means that the preservation, governing so that the people get the quality of air that they breathe is the best air possible in the world, that the water that they drink is the best drinking water because we are the land of many waters, that the gold that is extracted does not cost the lives of 10 men because of an unscrupulous miner who they work for, that you have proper roads for farmers to get their produce out, the oil that has just been discovered, that it is in a sense, harvested, if I'm to use that word, for the benefit of all Guyanese across the social and political spectrum, and not only Guyanese who exist now, but for their children, grandchildren, and great, for generations to come. So that's Mr. Granger's concept of the national patrimony, that we don't see companies moving in and just plucking logs out of the ground and cutting and shipping out to the country, and we just have to look on while we see our country literally being raped and plundered and violated. And so coming under governance as well is the former functions of the Ministry of Natural Resources. So I also have that hat. So for me, it's a reorientation that is exciting. It tells me again about the mind of the man who has asked me to come and work for him, the president, that he's not seeing governance only in the limited view based on a constitution or a few laws, but how do we manage and deliver a better form of government to the people of Guyana, one that is connected to them, one that is responsive to people's needs. And so I have, in a sense, dual responsibilities, but government and good governance really means taking care of the needs of people with what you have and making sure that, again, a clique of people don't hijack what you have and make sure that only their friends and family get, but that all the people of Guyana, whether you're coming from Skeldon or you're going up to Waini or you're going down to Guns Strip in Rupununi, that everyone gets the same and equal access to the wealth of this nation. And that's the orientation of President Granger, and I am honored and privileged to have been asked by him to look into those matters and to work alongside a fantastic group of ministers and others who will be moving the country forward.
Okay. Sir, many would say that they would have said it in the past and they would say it now. I was even reading an article earlier on it. Many would say that you have served very well as a Speaker of the National Assembly. Would you say that that role would have somewhat prepared you to serve now as Minister?
Well, of course, yes. I smile because being Speaker, you were elected Speaker for all MPs. And under the British Commonwealth system you are to wear an impartial hat like a judge and to make decisions fairly. So I think it has prepared me because it fits exactly into what President Granger has asked. That is, that we don't look and our eyes don't stop at only those who voted for us. But we now have to look beyond to all those who did not vote for us, and even if they did not vote for us, to say to them, we are here to take care of you as well. And hopefully you will vote for us on the next occasion, but even if you do not or did not, we still see you as part of our responsibility, and will treat you as equally and as fairly as we do the people who voted for us. So yes, it has prepared me, it has allowed me to be involved in making major decisions, to having to deal with people who you ordinarily would not have to deal with or don't even want to deal with sometimes, because some of these people even are trying to destroy you. Mm-hmm. But you have to be able to say, even if this person is trying to destroy me, it is still my job, because I took an oath to take care of that person's rights and responsibilities and to ensure that they get fairness before me. So it's difficult, but I believe it was a good training ground for something like this.
Wonderful. Mm-hmm. Finally, before I let you go back to your busy schedule, sir, again, most people, you have not let Guyana down as a public servant before. But now, what would you like to say, Guyana? What can Guyana expect from Raphael Trotman, the Minister of Governance, when it comes to professionalism, even morals, ethics, values? What can Guyana expect from Raphael Trotman?
Well, I've always maintained that when the right leadership is in place, the country rejoices and will fit itself almost like a wheel in a cog. It fits, and you hear a click. And when people know that the president of Guyana is a person of integrity and, never caught up and will never be caught up in scandals of whatever kind, you'd be surprised that the ministers will behave accordingly. The people start cleaning up their environment and so forth. But for too long, there was this belief that because they do it at the top, we can as well. And whether it be traffic violators or people throwing a box of chicken, empty box out to the window, or just men urinating openly in the public, I think all of that is going to start to change. And so President Granger, stresses that all of his ministers, not just Raphael Trotman, behave with integrity. You're not going, I spoke to the staff when I held my first staff meeting. Whatever you do it with decorum and dignity, because you are all ambassadors, not just for your ministry, but for your country. And so we have to set that example. And so the people of Guyana must expect and hold us to that standard, by the way, that we will behave professionally, fairly, that we will avoid anything that embarrasses the president and our government, and that we must be prepared to walk the plank, and that is to resign if we bring embarrassment to the president who's appointed us or to our cabinet colleagues and others. So that is the standard that I'm not only setting for myself, but I know it's a standard that is set for me by the president and my other colleagues. And we were told last week about ministerial responsibility and collective ministerial responsibility. We all have to hold each other accountable, and the people must do the same and hold us accountable. So thank you for being here, and I hope that I can continue to discharge my responsibilities as God and the President and the people have asked. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, sir, and I know the public is definitely looking forward to that. And I urge the public to continue to pray for the new government. The new government is not invincible. We're going to have hiccups. I said last week we're going to have
and some mistakes will be made. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, sir. Minister of Governance, Mr. Raphael Trotman. I'll ask our operators now to pull up the clip that you were viewing earlier. Hopefully you can get a chance to hear from the minister within the Ministry of Social Protection, Ms. Simona Brooms, and when we come back, I'll be chatting with the Minister of Communities, Mr. Ronald Bulkan. Stay with us.
It's a plus. Minister talked about the standards and excellence. It starts from you, your mind. How do you see coming to work? How do you feel to be a part of this social protection? I have to protect people. I have to protect Guyanese people. You understand? So I want to ask of you, people just leave here and go to New York and Trinidad and Jamaica, and they boast about how they get out on time and they were there early. What about here? Let us change that culture. It's Guyana time. We would give of our best, and we ask for your best. One of the things that we cannot accept is your time, the lateness. The president will expect of us to operate at a certain standard. So we expect of you also to operate at that same level. We cannot go to the cabinet late. I don't know, before Ms. Lawrence, if she knows something, she got to tell me. because I want you to give me the heads up because I can't afford to be late. And if I hear something, I gotta tell Minister because Minister knows we can't afford to get there, you know. So I want to ask you your time, regardless of where you live, if rain fall, if it is sun, people just go to snowstorm. I mean, if it is that bad, then you have a holiday. But please, let us all look at how we deal with our working hours when we come to work. You know, come and deliver so you feel good at the end of the day. So that's what I want to ask of all of you.
There's so many.
Thank you. Don't see us as the important people. And because we see you as the most important people, we will treat you as the most important people. Right? So, I would use the word again, Minister. You are the honorable. And we are privileged. I feel blessed to serve you. I feel blessed. And I just pray, God, that I could do it to the best of my ability. That all of you will be empowered. You will come out here, we will take care of these senior people. And like the minister said, we'll turn this place around. You will educate yourself. I want you to tone yourself down. I want you with all the hearts after today and this minute when you leave here. I want you to look at this compound different. I want you to feel different. I want you to act different. Find a compassion for people. Start to love yourself and love these old people that we gotta take care of. Change it. You're being oppressed. It's like, I myself, sometimes, I said it before, that being a Guyanese for a while, I felt as if I was in prison. I felt as if I was trafficked by a system. But all of that will change. I want us to be here on time in the morning. Listen, don't come to work late anymore. Change that. Because you got to embrace the minister, myself, and this government. Let me tell you something. You're precious to the president. So we can't take you for granted. We are not the old administration. We are not allowed to take you for granted. What the president, that manifesto that you see is out there, we got to deliver that. We got to deliver that. And my minister here who's senior, listen, I intend and I pledge to work and work more hard with her. Because while she'll be focusing on so many different things, the mess is so huge. And you know what? Not only you, what about the people out there, the multitude? So somebody has to go out to the multitude. And I have to do that. But I want to ensure that while I'm out there, my minister is well supported. She could get all the, because she could administrate. She could administrate. I mean, you know, one staff said to me, but you know, y'all is coming and y'all don't listen to people, y'all is only listen to this and that and that. We are no fools. You couldn't get there is no mountain too high for us. There is no valley too deep. There is no ocean. Listen, I don't care how it get rough. The sea will part. It will part because we will go forward.
of that clip, especially with the photographs put together, in a sense could move anyone to tears, knowing that human resources, Guyana's human resources have now been placed on the priority list, the top of our priority list. During the APNU+AFC campaign, of course, in the run-up to the May 11, 2015 regional and general elections, one of the things that we preached is the fact that this new administration would put the importance of lives, the importance of our human resources back at the top of our priority list, and that has been done. As you can already see, the Ministry of Social Protection is already on the move. What you heard from, of course, in that clip and an earlier clip is from two ministers, the Minister of Social Protection, Mrs. Valda Lawrence, and the Minister within the Ministry of Social Protection, Ms. Simona Brooms. Hopefully in the near future, in the following weeks to come, as I continue to profile the ministers, I can have both of them on here to talk about some of the things that they would have already done and the things that they will continue to do. Earlier in the week, just an update on their movements. Both ministers earlier in the week would have met with the staff of the Child Care and Protection Agency. They met with the staff at the Palms. They also spoke with the senior citizens in the Palms and other homes, and of course staff at the Ministry of Social Protection. Once again, that used to be the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security. I know it's going to take some time for you to get used to the change, the name change and the additions and the subtractions, but of course we're all working for one goal, so bear with us and keep cooperating with and supporting us and supporting our new president, His Excellency Brigadier David Granger, His Excellency the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, and also support the APNU+AFC coalition government. As promised with me, I have the final minister who I'll be profiling for today, Mr. Ronald Bulkan. In the past, he was introduced to you. You knew him as the Shadow Minister of Local Government. Of course, that was when it was Ministry of Local Government. Now he is the Minister. I'm happy to say that he is the Minister of Communities. He'll be explaining about that today, the name change and everything that falls under his ministry, Mr. Ronald Bulkan. Welcome, sir, and I take this opportunity to say congratulations.
Thank you very much, Malika, and I'm glad to be here. Allow me please to mention that the last time I would have been here, we would have been in the opposition. Mm-hmm. Today, thanks to the 207,000 plus Guyanese who have supported us and who have placed us into office, we are now in a different position. We are now in a position to serve the people of not only those 207,000 persons who have put us into office, but to all Guyanese. And personally, I look forward to being a part of the team of this new administration to be able to deliver in accordance with the expectations of our people, and I'm happy to be here today.
All right, great to have you. First of all, sir, there's been, well, some people see it as confusion. I don't see it as confusion. As I said earlier on this program, teething problems, you're going to take time to understand some of the things that we're doing. That's why we have programs like these and other interviews. First off, Mr. Bulkan, what is the Ministry of Communities?
In its simplest terms, Malika, the new Ministry of Communities encompasses what was formerly two ministries, namely the Ministry of Housing and Water, as well as the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. Now, with the creation of a single ministry or a new ministry, those former ministries, we will now have 4 departments. So the Ministry of Communities comprises of a Department of Housing, a Department of Water, a Department for Local Government, as well as a Department for Regional Development. So it's those 4 broad areas under the umbrella of a single ministry. And that's in its simplest explanation.
Would it be difficult or simpler to handle those various affairs, especially in the departments that you just mentioned, because these are going to be large departments? You can correct me if I'm wrong here.
Absolutely, Malika. They are huge areas of responsibility, but as you would be aware, I am not alone in this ministry. I've been given 2 very able and competent persons to act within the ministry as ministers. These being Minister Keith Scott, who will have responsibility for housing, and my former colleague in the 10th Parliament, Minister Don Hastings, who will have responsibility for both local government, but in particular regional administration. So I will have a lot of support at the senior level, and of course the entire team of public servants that would have been present in those two former ministries. They all remain in place, and they would be at the disposal of this new ministry, Ministry of Communities, to continue to serve the people of Guyana, but hopefully with a new direction and a new focus, because I think there are marked differences that we hope to bring in relation to the areas of governance that differentiates us from the past administration.
Have you been able to meet with your staff thus far, and are there difficulties that you may have to work through? Because the fact is, the reality is we have taken over from basically a broken system. So are there many difficulties you're going to have to work through?
The first part of your question, Malika, so far, myself and Minister Scott, we have met the senior persons, the key officers at the former Ministry of Housing and Water, and that was earlier in the week, where we have reassured all of the staff members that there's not going to be any staff reductions, and that they can expect support at the ministerial level. And we took the opportunity to outline what would be the key requirements and the key ingredients that public servants, and in particular them, would be expected to discharge as part of their duties. And I'll come back to that in a minute.
Okay.
However, I've been unable to have a similar exercise with the senior persons at the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development due to the fact that the boardroom, which is the only venue or the only office where that interaction and that introductory meeting can take place, is not in a condition because it was used as a warehouse or as a storehouse. So we're in the process of having that cleaned and cleared, and I've gone to great pains to have it explained to all of the members of staff at local government that it is not a sign of disrespect that I have not had this introductory meeting with the key persons of that ministry, but hopefully that clearing and cleaning exercise at the boardroom will be completed probably no later than Tuesday, so that we can have that introductory meeting with the key staff at the Ministry of Local Government.
Minister Bulkan, before I come to some other matters, His Excellency President Granger would have already said that, look, he's not going to be doing any purging or witch hunting, basically not willy-nilly firing anyone in any ministry. So what's happening? The staff members who would have served under the People's Progressive Party administration have been retained, the majority of them thus far, as I know. Are you concerned that there could be some sort of attempt to undermine the new administration in various ministries, because you would have had people in those ministries' office, whatever the case may be, who would have been loyal in a sense to the PPPC, and even though government has changed, still loyal to the PPPC? Are you concerned that some undermining might actually occur?
Yes, Malika, that concern is real and present.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be foolhardy of us to ignore the potential for that phenomenon to be present, because, as you have pointed out, there are public servants who would have been in place, who were, in some cases, would have been placed there on the basis of party loyalty,
Mm-hmm.
and they were probably not equipped with regards to the competence to execute and deliver in their areas of responsibility, and also in the execution of their duties, the integrity and impartiality that are absolute requirements probably were not in place. So at the introductory meeting that I had along with Minister Scott with the key persons at the former Housing Ministry, we have established quite clearly what are the guidelines that will operate and will guide that ministry, the ministry going forward, and them in the execution of their duties. And to repeat myself, we've made it quite clear that whilst, and here I'm quoting what President Granger would have said to a little bit earlier when he addressed all of the permanent secretaries, as well as the heads of corporations and agencies and departments of government, where he made the point that each individual, it's not a question of bias, that at an individual level, we all have our biases, but that once we are public servants and we are functioning within the public service, what is expected is the need to practice administrative neutrality. It means that when we, as public servants, when we go to work, we have to be neutral in the execution of our duties. We cannot bring to bear the question of party allegiance or political loyalty. Those are absolutely irrelevant. Again, and I come back to the other two key requirements or ingredients, namely integrity, and again, it would be unwise of us to assume that all of our public servants operating at a senior level in the past administration would possess this quality of integrity. And President Granger had made it clear in his previous interaction, and I in turn repeated that message to the key persons at the Ministry of Housing, that there will be no compromise as far as integrity is concerned. I repeated some words of President Granger where he said that we have to arrive at a stage where the public must have sufficient confidence in public servants and in the public service, where public servants must be seen to be unbribable. And by extension, that zero graft or corruption will be tolerated within the public service, and that this new administration will seek to uproot graft and corruption where it exists, and that there will be no refuge or no haven, or we will not tolerate any form of corruption by public servants or within the public service. So, yes, as I said, it would be unwise for us to assume that there may not be a few cases of persons who would not be prepared to adhere to this new framework, and therefore they may seek to undermine the efforts of the new administration to bring back accountable government, transparent government, clean government, and representative government.
All right. With just about 5 minutes left in our broadcast, the big question: when can Guyanese expect local government elections?
Malika, well, there are two dimensions. One, it has to be the readiness. GCOM have to be in a state of readiness and preparedness.
Okay.
Because, as we would have discussed before in previous programs, that the holding of local government elections are actually far more complex than national elections. Because in the case of local government elections, there are actually 75 separate elections that are taking place at the same time. And even within those 75 individual or separate elections, there are even subdivisions, whereby for the first time, each of the councils, namely the 6 towns or municipalities, as well as the 65 neighborhoods or NDCs, there's an element now of constituency or geographic representation, where each of the local government area is subdivided into a geographic constituency where residents in that particular area or ward will have the opportunity to elect an individual hopefully to represent the interest of that geographic area within the entire municipality or of the NDC. So it's going to be a far more complex elections to hold, and this might sound a bit strange to our viewers given the fact that there was so much difficulties even with our national elections. So the first requirement is GCOM has to be in a state of readiness to be able to hold those elections. But what I can assure the public and viewers today is that the APNU in opposition, we had agitated strenuously and we had criticized the past administration for not holding local government elections. In fact, President Granger himself had led weekly protests for over about 3 months earlier this year in front of the office of the president, calling on the Donald Ramatara administration to name a date for the holding of local government elections. So even while I'm not in a position to actually give a date, I can say that this administration, we have already committed ourselves at the highest level, and it would not be unfair of me to say that the president's prestige is at stake because he had committed himself when in opposition and as leader of the opposition to ensure that we have democratic renewal, that the democratic life of our local government organs are renewed. So it is only a question of funding and administrative arrangements that will allow for the democratic renewal of those councils. But if you were to ask me, and viewers might expect, an absolute outside date when those elections will be held, I would say by the time our country celebrates its 50th anniversary of independence. Okay. But that would be the absolute outside.
The absolute outside. All right, sir. Finally, before we have to begin to wrap up today's program now, Ministry of Communities, and this is local government elections aside. Ministry of Communities, it suggests that persons in various villages, towns, cities, communities can expect much more hands-on attention coming from government or persons elected or directed by government to carry out various functions in communities. Would that be something difficult for your ministry to begin to do?
I don't think so, Malika. It would not be difficult. I'm confident in saying that because what we need is an attitude or a philosophy that allows us to first, on the one hand, equip our local councils to have the ability to discharge their functions and their role and responsibility as is prescribed for under our Constitution and the laws of Guyana. In addition to equipping those councils, they will have to be empowered. It is no secret to you and many of our viewers, I believe, that in opposition, the APNU in the last parliament, we have severely criticized and even condemned the former administration for exerting control and seeking to dominate our local government organs to the detriment of the functioning of those organs. I am on record since I've been appointed in this capacity and following my swearing in as committing publicly that hand of oppression, if you will, on the part of the central government will be replaced by a hand of friendship. So I see my role and the role the local government functions within the ministry not to dominate or not to control our local government organs, our local democratic organs, but to assist them to have a symbiotic relationship and to extend this hand of cooperation and friendship to, even before we have local government elections, with the existing councils, to support them in their work and not to seek to marginalize their authority. So this ministry is not going to practice any micromanagement. What we're going to have is we're going to allow our constitutional provisions that provides for local democracy and allow for empowerment of the communities. I think that philosophical framework I have already explained to the staff of the ministry, and we will seek to implement and execute that throughout and across all of our local organs.
Okay, all right. Well said, sir, and thank you very much. You have your work cut out for you. You've also always been a very faithful public servant. I'd like to wish you the best in your ministry, and of course, we expect only good things from Ronald Bulkan as the Minister of Communities. And viewers, hopefully soon we can also have both ministers within the Ministry of Communities who are responsible for the various departments, as you heard Minister Bulkan said. once again, thank you very much, Mr. Bulkan, for being here. Viewers, of course, I've been chatting with Minister of Communities, Mr. Ronald Bulkan. Unfortunately, this also brings the curtain down on today's edition of Facing the Nation. I know, viewers, you're feeling a bit neglected because I haven't opened up the phone lines, but for the next few weeks, I just want you to become familiar with the new government ministers, so that when I do open the phone lines again, you will know exactly where and how to pose your questions to not only ministers. Hopefully by then I can get permission, of course, government's permission to have some of the other staff, senior staff members like permanent secretaries and so on, just to give you brief updates on what's happening with our various communities, because of course this is not only about the new coalition government, this is about Guyanese, this is about Guyana as a whole, because you are the reason we now have a new government that will certainly take care of the majority of your needs, wants, and concerns. I am Malika Ramsey. Thank you very much for joining us. Be good Guyanese citizens. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and of course, join me again next time. Goodbye.